Of all the traps and pitfalls in life, self-disesteem is the deadliest and the hardest to overcome. For it is a pit designed and dug by our own hands, summed up in the phrase, "It's no use, I can't do it." Self-disesteem is the deadliest. Why is that?
Well, we've been talking a lot about destructive things and constructive things. That makes you think a lot about this idea of a belief. One of the ways of describing a belief is that it's sort of like a tabletop. It's kind of a little strange looking table, I know. But it's kind of rooted to the floor of your mind. Okay? The belief part, well, actually, the belief is both data and energy. Okay? So there's data here, just words. And then it's rooted to the floor of your mind with an emotional energy charge. Okay? And that's what separates a belief from just any old idea that might not influence you a lot. It's that data is superglued to some emotion, and then the emotion locks this data to your mind. Well, a belief could be a destructive belief or a constructive belief. There's a technique that we use sometimes in psychoanalysis called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a very advanced hypnotic technique, and it's a little bit like rapid psychoanalysis in a way. And what it does is it gets you to look into your unconscious mind hypnotically and locate really core beliefs about yourself that get phrased in this sort of way. I am what? Okay? And it has a way of severing these connections between the emotional energy charge and the detail of the data of the belief. I can give you an example of this working. One random example was there was a story of there was a Roman Catholic nun who had been raped in her youth by a priest. And her recollection of the details of that event were kind of scanty, and they were fearful for her to even think about. And she had a lot of trauma from it, obviously, and was even diagnosed as PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And you can use EMDR to try to treat post-traumatic stress. And the person goes back to the feared memory, the feared event. And as you recall, the past is not something we control anymore, right? The past is not something that logically can still hurt us today. It's not real anymore, in a way. So you can be confident in going and facing the past and beating that fear of memories in your past. So she went back to this event, and this is called a cognition, a self-cognition. It's a belief about who you are and what your identity is. And her belief was, I am weak. I am helpless. And it was very tied to this traumatic event. And she had carried that belief about herself around for decades, 20 or 25 years or so, I believe. Now you can imagine, with that working in the background, that's sort of like, this is like, do you know what avionics are? Avionics is like the electronics of a guidance system of an airplane, of the autopilot, in a way. So this was her avionics working to fly her plane every time she was on autopilot or unconscious. Imagine what your life would become if you believed I am weak and helpless, and you weren't even always consciously aware that that's what you really believe about yourself. And your body's on autopilot, responding as if I am weak and helpless. With EMDR, these connections get severed. And there's something about it that coordinates the right brain and left brain together to process confusing old details about a terrible event and sort of put them in their proper order, and in the process release a lot of negative energy. And that happened. And so she cried and she got angry and she really let out just tons of emotion when recalling the details of this horrible memory. And when she got the details, what she discovered was something new that she had forgotten, or maybe never even solidly incorporated in memory. And that was that she kicked like crazy and really severely physically hurt her attacker, which doesn't jive with the belief, I am weak and helpless. And she was sort of stunned by this and was like, I hadn't realized that I had done that. I really injured the guy. So I couldn't possibly be weak or helpless. I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. And with all this negative emotion, anxiety and anger that rooted this negative belief to the floor of her mind, this cognition changed to a positive. It changed to, I am a fighter. And when you asked her about it, you felt this was real. Has someone ever told you, well, I'm this or I'm that? And you tried to get a sense of how genuine they were about it, and it didn't feel too genuine. You could tell that they lacked some confidence about the statement they were making. Well, you felt the confidence in this belief, in this woman. So what has happened is a positive belief is now rooted to her mind with positive emotional energy called confidence. And her former anxiety got transformed to confidence as superglue to connect this belief to her mind. And if you remember seeing that anxiety map, she had done courage to dare to go face the past that was fearful to face. And it converted all this negative energy to positive energy. So those are my associations to this quote, that disesteem, it's basically a negative belief which has negative energy to it, is a very deadly pitfall in life.
But that there's a way to